Abracadabra, Charles. How are you?
The magician strikes again.
Yes, that's always the case. A little dark in here today. There we go. Well, Charles, welcome to summer.
It is great to be in summer. It's a beautiful day here in New York City. It started out kind of cool, but it's now nice and warm. People are enjoying themselves.
Absolutely.
But this art department, how many hundred people are in it?
They're working overtime, Charles.
But it's really, this is a great poster and a great play on that movie about magic.
Right. You know what? I never saw that movie, Now You See Me.
Yeah, I think the premise was something that the magicians would get together, these illusionists would get together, and they would steal money and give it to the audience. And it was all about catching them. This is the opposite group. They steal money and just keep straight up steal it and keep it for themselves.
Absolutely.
And I think when the full story gets told here, what we may well find out is that the people you see pictured here, you have, of course, the core elements in the fraudster community are Bill Clinton, Hillary, and Obama got sucked into it. And then you have the various members formerly in the CIA, was it McCabe was FBI?
Yes.
And Comey FBI, and then the special prosecutor. The lead players in that were Mueller and then Weissman and Jeannie Rhee.
Right.
All these people think they're being super clever. Weissman just got a book deal.
Yeah.
I don't know what Jeannie Rhee gets out of this deal. Mueller has made a lot of money. Obama, of course, is over in Europe now, staying at some exorbitantly expensive place with his kids, vacation. And Bill and Hillary are obviously very, very wealthy. But these are crumbs in the real conspiracy. The real conspiracy, we're talking about hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars. These people are prepared, to pull their sleights of hand with government numbers, with charity numbers, with their own personal lives. But it's the puppeteers behind the scenes, the leaders of other countries that are even more corrupt than the United States became through and including under Obama. There are large countries in the world where, stealing is basically the national sport.
Yeah. I think we're in one of those countries.
Well, we sadly, we are now living in one of those countries, but hopefully, we've been waiting patiently for Il Presidente to do something about it, and I think we're going to be able to start talking today about concrete accomplishments that show that indeed there has been progress and justice is coming for every single one of these people.
Yeah, I hope that's coming soon. You just reminded me, Charles, when you talked about Il Presidente, you remember that movie Trumbo about Walter White being a communist? We could do Trumbo.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Fighting communists.
That's a good one.
Now, the other thing is, Charles, people have been asking me about merchandise, and the merchandise store, of course, has been available for some time. People can go on to redbubble.com, and I've actually already put today's graphic on there. People can order it in a variety of t-shirts and hoodies and iPhone and iPad protectors, of course, the ever popular coffee mug. Redbubble has just introduced posters as well, but they've informed me that the video resolution graphics that I've put up here are not high enough resolution for posters. So if there's a poster that anybody wants, they can email me on truth@crowdsourcethetruth.org, and I'll make sure to put a high-res graphic up there. But not that many people have been buying stuff from the merchandise store. There was a really interesting thing that happened with Thursday's intelligence assessment, Kevin Shipp's show. We did a show. Kevin's been doing some research about this Hammer computer system in Dennis, Montgomery. Everybody knows about that and has heard about that. But Kevin's been doing some of his own research and has come to some conclusions that were very interesting. And we did a little 15-minute preview on YouTube to let everybody know that they can see the intelligence assessment on Tuesday nights at 7 by subscribing to the channel. And we had all these people come into the comments on the free show on YouTube to tell everybody that Kevin is wrong and that they shouldn't watch the show. But these are people who did not watch the show. So I don't understand how they can comment on that. It's really important that people get onto subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth to sponsor the show. I do appreciate the suggestions from people about offering merchandise and stuff, but that entire Redbubble merchandise store, since I started it a year ago, has earned about $180.
180.
Exactly. So all of this indirect sponsorship is pretty inefficient. YouTube has been demonetizing basically all of the videos that I put up. And you know, Charles, there is something going on because you know, Larry's got his class action suit against YouTube. There's a YouTuber who's a lawyer named Viva Fry who's very upset that they have you know, taken down a video of his for being inappropriate. I've mentioned this to people. We did a video a year ago with Ole Damagard and Cody Snodgrass that was banned and removed from YouTube for mentioning a certain high school student who has family members who allegedly were a part of the Federal Bureau of Not Investigating Things. And the video was removed a year ago, but then on April 12th, the removed video got a strike, even though it was, you know, sort of like hidden, removed. I didn't even know it was still there on YouTube. Nobody could see it. But I appealed it on April 12th, and here we are, almost at the end of the punitive period here, and YouTube hasn't even written back to me. So people who want this information to come out and feel like the information should be free, the information is free. But publishing on YouTube and conducting your day-to-day life in the United States of America in 2019 is not free. So it's critically important, if people want these broadcasts to continue, that they sponsor the show. That's my bit for now, and we are ready, I think, to dive in.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
And of course, the slides. Here we go.
So I believe, looking back on this experience here, we started on this together, this podcasting exercise in June of 2017. And I believe that by then, before then actually, that the deep state really felt comfortable. They had it all wired, that they were not going to, you know, they could create as many obstacles as possible to either unseat Trump or put him in a place where he would never be reelected. That's what they thought they'd do. And that's what they tried to do. That's what they're trying to do even now. But with luck and with a lot of hard work and with some of the success that I think Donald Trump has managed to accomplish, in spite of all the interference, in spite of all the resistance, we're now in a place where national leaders, current and former national leaders, current and former senior government officials, are in the rhetorical gun sights of prosecutors around the world. I think stomachs are turning. People are beginning to understand just how disgusting the activities have been of what...
Stomachs are turning.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned luck. I'm sorry to interrupt, Charles, but one of my very favorite sayings is that luck is the residue of design.
Right. Good one. That needs to go
in the book.
In the book or in your new show or whatever.
Oh, and we should talk about the book as well.
All right. So we have been patiently preparing. People say, well, hey, you know, how come this didn't happen already? You know, I'm sick and tired of watching. You know, why don't you just get this done? I mean, last time I checked. What
are you waiting for, Charles?
You know, I retired in 2002. That was 17 years ago. I don't like to work for other people, and we're doing this as a service, really, and as a lesson, hopefully, that will be taught in time of what it is possible for a group like us to accomplish. That we lay this stuff out there. There is such thing as right, and there is such thing as wrong. And these presidents and prime ministers around the world have been behaving badly. They've been bought off for pittances by the truly evil people behind this mess, who will in time be exposed. And
George Soros is attempting to short the pittance, so you better watch out.
You better watch out. But the vehicle of choice here, and it really, the more I get into this, the more it makes sense to me. The vehicle of choice, of course, is a false front charity, a charity that sounds too good to be true. How could you question the Dalai Lama's involved with this, or the Pope's involved with this, or, you know, some blind 17-year-old Pakistani girl is involved. You know, it's just, but people, when they hear charity, they see celebrities associated with it, when they see lots of money and global causes, they foolishly sign up either for $20 a month over the internet, or they make bigger donations. And because people, particularly as we age, people are looking to, you know, do nice things and improve the world, and not necessarily chasing every last penny or for profit. And so you come around trying to think of a good cause to contribute to, and there frankly are a lot of really stupid ass causes out there that you know, get away with raising millions of dollars or more. And so it's tough to find a good one, which means when you see these, there's a crowd mentality. When you see like-minded people you trust saying, yeah, I really want to pull plastic from the ocean, and, you know, and recycle these bottles. Well, you know, is that what they're really doing?
That's the question. You know, it could be a good charity, but is it legitimately doing what it says it's going to do?
And the other piece of it is, when you live here in Manhattan, or you live in a city, you live in America, or you live in a small town that's well run, you're inclined to believe that the rest of the world it might be worse, but you can't imagine how bad it is. I mean, when Trump, we're going to get into this a little bit with talking about Haiti, when Trump got in trouble for using the phrase, we'll modify it slightly, shitholi, the reality is that, you know, if you live in a country where there's no clean drinking water and where there's no clean sanitation, there's not a lot you can do to protect yourself from the attendant health consequences that are going to come your way, because all that stuff goes into the ground, goes into what you drink, goes into the food that's made in the country, and inevitably you're going to get sick from it. You're going to have a shorter lifestyle. So span, right? So you know, we just are not tempted to contemplate how dramatically difficult some of these challenges actually are outside the country. So you'll find that a lot of these frauds, and especially these Clinton Foundation and allied frauds, all center on countries where it's virtually impossible to check what's actually going on. I mean, if it takes 24 hours to travel 100 miles into the bush in Africa, I'm just making that number up, and you're 1,000 miles away from the nearest international airport on your hospital project, your AIDS project, or whatever, your agriculture project, you know, who is really going to spend the required time? What accounting professional, legal professional, government official is actually going to go into the interior to make sure that you purchased $150,000 worth of AIDS stuff and so many test kits and so many needles and actually spent? Nobody's going to check that. They're going to say, well, you know, we'll let somebody else go into the bush and bring back a report. That'll be good enough.
Actually, there is, Charles, a brave accounting professional who is willing to go into the deepest, darkest jungles and check on all of that stuff.
Right.
He's a tiger.
That's right. Yeah. But so we're in a place, the other thing I would caution, and I actually, there are a number of very loyal followers of the show that we appreciate enormously, and some send me on a daily basis emails of different prosecutions that are moving forward or different indictments that are proceeding. And we have to remember, I mean, on television, particularly on the lamestream media, once the lamestream media decides that Kavanaugh is guilty, it's like off with his head. No trial, no presumption, he should just resign. That's the way it works. Where in the real world, you know, even in kangaroo courts, which we're going to talk about one that's going on in England, even in those type of courts, you still have in this country the presumption of innocence, which means that a prosecutor actually has to build a case, has to get approval to bring a case, and then has to win the case, either by preponderance of evidence or beyond a reasonable doubt standard, before juries, I mean, in the main. And that's a tough thing to do.
And they usually use a grand jury for that, right?
Right. Well, the grand jury to get the indictment, yeah.
Right. So we're learning a lot about grand juries. As a matter of fact, on Tuesday, so everybody knows last week, Larry conducted his citizen grand jury. Larry Klayman held a citizen's grand jury in a secure, secret location. We had Dr. Corsi provide some really interesting testimony that people are going to get a chance to hear that whole thing on Tuesday.
Great.
So we're learning a lot about grand juries and how they work.
Right. But what as we'll go through today, this is a case from 1997, October 23rd, 1997, to Election Day, I guess it was the 8th of November, 2016. In that time frame, this fraud, which started as a small fraud, the Clinton Foundation fraud, metastasized and became a gigantic operation, leaping beyond the boundaries of its charity to infect governments and other charities and people around the world. So a challenge before President Trump and his administration it will be to see how much of this fraud gets uncovered and punished. We could certainly expose most and have almost exposed all of the Clinton Foundation related fraud. But beyond that, when you start talking about jumping into stimulus or jumping into Global Fund or jumping into other places, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So this is a process about exposing the fraud, about motivating legislators to change laws, to tighten them up so that these kind of things are more difficult to do, but above all, about holding these corrupt former and current leaders to account, making them pay stiff prices. I mean, there are, as we're going to introduce you to a new set of statutes where one count on this new statute is 30 years in prison. And I can tell you, Clinton Foundation people, I mean, they're not enough. We'd have to.
They're running out of fingers and toes with the counts.
Exactly. We'd have a great new business opportunity of prisons to house these people.
You could call Dick Cheney.
I'm thinking that there's a good place we could talk about.
Where?
Haiti.
Oh, go to Haiti?
No, we create a purpose-built prison in Haiti
for
these people. That would be some nice justice.
Make the Walmart factory in Haiti the prison.
Move the headquarters of
Right.
Walmart to Haiti. But anyway, why don't we jump into the body of the slides here?
Yes.
Before we go too far, for the new, I know you have every week new viewers, and welcome to the show if you're new. This is a joint exercise here. This is a team effort with viewers contributing enormously to spreading the word and introducing others, tweeting these shows out. I can tell you that the traffic that I see on my Twitter account is much higher, not just with the count of people following me, but with the number of tweets that get retweeted of these different shows. It's really making a difference. And people are going back in and they're saying, wow, I didn't see this before. And they're watching show after show and retweeting and sending. And that's, I think, how we're going to spread word of mouth here, particularly as we begin to explain that there have been now, there's at least one prosecution that I think, I mean, I'm not saying we're responsible for it, but it certainly has happened after we started talking about the issue.
Well, if we want to apply, I don't know, is this Euclidean math? If people aren't prosecuted, everybody gets pissed off at you. So if somebody does get prosecuted, therefore it must be your doing.
I guess.
I don't know what that would be, but.
Yeah. So,
now, Charles, not to provide a spoiler, but I was perusing the slides and I noticed a country that President Trump mentioned last week in his interview with George Stephanopoulos.
yes.
I wonder if he's watching.
Yeah, well, perhaps his people are watching, I would suggest.
Someone's watching.
Yeah. And I hope the FBI, I'm pretty sure the FBI and others are watching. They should be, I mean, I'm told they're watching, not by the FBI. So this, though, is a show and is a process that we're beginning to see others try to emulate. And that is, it was very common in the world that I started out in investment banking, doing board presentations. You didn't get to just walk into the boardroom and say, yeah, I think it's going to rain tomorrow. I mean, you had to actually do a lot of work. You were only invited into a boardroom because people, maybe foolishly in my case, thought you were an expert on something.
I don't know about that.
So you went in and you did your homework and you had a board presentation that was like this, slides, 10, 12, 15 slides. But behind it typically were always exhibit books, backup books, appendices to the backup books. So the people who were really interested, and some board members couldn't give a shit, excuse my language, about anything other than generalities. Others were really very, very interested in the detail. And so we try to do this presentation so that the listening part of it is for people who are more surface level than detail oriented. But if you really get interested in these topics that we've talked about now in these many slides and shows, there are many, many links that you can read and check for yourself to see, how did this Ortel guy come up with this? Well, you can go look at the piece of evidence for yourself and verify that I hope what I'm saying is correct. Now, Jason and I both really do appreciate constructive criticism. We got one I want to mention I got one from somebody who suggested, why don't you do more charts as opposed to words? And the simple reason is, I don't know how to do charts, but I'll try to learn.
I think Microsoft Word has a thing you just hit charts.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm with you. I don't really ever make charts.
Right.
And it's one of those things where it's easy if you know how to do it, Charles.
Right. So I might spend some time trying to learn how to do that. But the reason I'm doing words is that it's for people who are the real skeptics, the lawyers, the criminal justice people. They like to see it laid out in words.
Right.
Because oftentimes with a chart, it's very useful in sending a message, but charts don't necessarily send tight analysis, tight step-by-step summaries for people to follow and trace through. How did you go from this point here to that conclusion over here? Whereas words tend to do a better job of that. But I will take a look at
chart may be more of a visual summary type of thing. But people can send you those types of useful suggestions on Twitter. They can follow you there at Charles Ortel. Your Twitter following is growing, and you are, for people who want a one-stop shop for news that is of interest to our viewers, Charles's Twitter feed is a great place to go. People can also follow Crowdsource the Truth on Twitter. We're approaching 25,000 at CS the Truth. That's also the address to follow us on Periscope, Charles. So if ever there's a problem with YouTube, people can go over to Periscope. I find Periscope pretty difficult to search, but at CS the Truth is the Periscope address.
I don't think I've ever been on Periscope. I'll have to try that.
It's like a wild west of internet video on there.
But we do have, thanks for pulling those things up, Jason, we do have this playlist that is now, I guess today's our 164th video, and I could say with certainty it'll be a 2-hour video, unlike last week where we had to go quickly. So
sorry to rush you, Joe.
That's all right. No. It's fine. I had things I had to do too. But this is quite a summary, and it's very helpful, frankly, when people, I meet new people online or sometimes in person every week, and oftentimes they say, well, where can I go to get a sense of what you're caring about? So you might start with this playlist. And most often people come back and say, wow, how did you do all this?
I was going to say, Charles, we are deep into the territory of, I'm looking at some of these and I don't even remember creating them. We've made so many.
Uh-oh, Jason. I'm the old guy.
Well, right. But that CRS kicks in. This was a classic.
That really was.
Breaking Bad.
That really was.
But
who knows? Right, maybe at NYU Film School someday they'll be talking about the filmography of Jason Goodman.
Sunday with Charles. Yeah. Well, should we talk for a moment about the coffee table book?
Sure.
So I did do some research, and there is a very famous photographic place here in New York that actually I worked at for a brief time in college that has an on-demand, short-run book printing thing, but it's really expensive per book, and I don't know how many people. I may put together like a Twitter poll or some kind of poll to see how many people would actually be interested in. It's going to be at least $100 for a book that includes any significant portion of and that's like almost no profit whatsoever and a lot of work to do it. So I want to get a feel for how many people would actually be interested in that. As I pointed out, we've had the redbubble.com merchandise store for over a year and almost nothing has been purchased from there. So I don't know if the book is something that people will really want.
Yeah, it's funny. I, of course, collect books, as you know, and I have quite a few coffee table books, but what I find to be the most appealing are actually much longer than 100 pages and thicker, and they're big. They're substantial books that you put on a here, let's say.
Yeah, some of them are surprisingly expensive.
Probably the size of this can't really show anybody, but big.
Here.
Even bigger than those. You'll see that if you go, we'll walk over to the Strand one time, because what I had, if you were going to go down the direction of that style book, you'd have, the poster, and then a page or so of explanation of each one, maybe 1 to 2 pages. This is the way these things work. And so if you're 100 posters, it's 300 pages, and
It's a lot.
it's a lot. And maybe they're just I spoke to my book agent in general about it. That's not her area, that type of book, but she didn't seem to be, let's just say she wasn't wildly enthusiastic about it. Although I love these books. I mean, I collect books, so I love these type of things.
Well, I'll put together a poll and we'll see what people say about
Sure.
book or no book.
All right. Book or no book, deal or no deal.
People want postcards. You can order postcards from redbubble.com. Search for
What do you
Crowdsource
mean,
the Truth.
and have the poster on the cover?
Individual postcards of each one.
Well, that'd be interesting.
I'm pretty sure those are now available on Redbubble. I will double check after the show.
So there's been a lot of very important news that came out in the last week. If we go to this first story, it seems, and we knew this, you've interviewed Cheryl Atkinson, there's been a lot, we cover this, you cover it more broadly than I do, but looking back over the 2 terms of Barack Obama, only loony people would say that there are at this stage, that it was a scandal-free administration. Between let's go further back. Go back to January 20th, 2001. George W. Bush, all of Bush and all of Obama. In that 16-year period, the power that ordinary people had with technology to find out information about opponents and friends and whatever, and then the power that devious government officials would have and contractors to abuse controls, to abuse the system and create incriminating information that could then be used as leverage for whatever reason, for political advantage, business advantage, personal advantage, crooked this or crooked that. In that time frame, it's scary how much more powerful the tools became, and how much more concentrated the administration of those tools turned it out to be in the hands of a very limited number of people and their financial backers. So we think, about Clapper and Brennan, for example, who are at Comey. I mean, these people, Clapper was head of the top security agency in the country, Brennan, the CIA, and Comey, the head of the FBI. These 3 people, to me, are outright criminals, unprosecuted, outright criminals. Yet, the system let them stay in power for a long period of time. The system still pays them millions of dollars.
Wow.
There are various...
Who's paying them?
Well,
Pension or
books,
something?
Comey's book,
right,
and Clapper's television, and who knows what else. And so this was a period where the system, this great new, brave new world, this new millennium, I think, in hindsight, will be shown for what it was and what it nearly became, was a near totalitarian, dictatorial approach to life, where the crooked people in the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, and their counterparts around the world worked in league with the puppeteers to bend the public's will to do their bidding. And they knew. In W. Bush, they had somebody who was, let's just, to be polite, we'll say he's malleable, easily bent. We could say other things about it. And Obama, he didn't appear to have much interest in his job. And you go back and you read the fact that his schedule, he started work at the crack at 10:30.
What?
You look at his president's schedules, I mean, they were very, very light.
10:30?
10:30, there are all sorts of, not every day.
Isn't Trump in there like 7 a.m. after
it's
getting 2 hours of sleep and tweeting for 4 hours?
I mean, there are people who, different experts will say that sometimes the most effective managers are people who don't work 18 hours a day, but instead only work 4 hours. Some people say that, actually. True.
I think those are people who hired smart people and didn't show up.
That's right. I loved your look at that.
But Trump did say to Stephanopoulos that he sleeps about 4 or 5 hours a day, which is not that much sleep. I have a difficult time getting more than 5 hours of sleep, and I wish I could get more, but so he's busy.
Does that mean you're running for president? Is this an official announcement?
No.
You're going to follow Trump?
No.
Positioning Jason.
No.
2024. No?
You got to be 45 to run for president?
35.
Oh, what the hell have I been doing?
But here we have, I don't know what this particular site is. I've been I get to it a lot. The National Sentinel, I'll have to learn more about it. And the guy writing here, if we just scroll down, I think it's John, what's his name? Further down, maybe?
Doherty?
Yeah, John Dougherty. He writes a lot of good stuff. But basically what he describes in this lengthy piece is how the FBI was in tight with various organs of the press. So there'd be these informal chats where the FBI would be talking to the Wall Street Journal and vice versa, or the FBI would be talking to the New York Times and vice versa, and suggestions would go across the line, and then the FBI might use the excuse that somebody had written about a story suggesting that Manafort's crooked or Papadopoulos or Jared Kushner's crooked as the predicate to then go ahead
and investigate
and start either not a full investigation or the beginnings of an investigation.
A matter.
It's a setup.
It's a setup. And this was covered when Larry had when freedomwatchusa.org had their FOIA lawsuit against Mueller's office. A lot of emails came out, particularly that really detestable Shane Harris from the Wall Street Journal, who did all that fake reporting surrounding the death of Peter Smith. He's contacting Peter Carr within the Mueller office. He's the press agent of the Mueller office, planting the story, almost as if the Wall Street Journal was driving the story and then having the special counsel react so that they could report on it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's got to be, and the idea that these powerful media companies can provide things of value to government officials, like attendance at fancy restaurants or media events or sporting events or whatever else, and there's a fair amount of that that's already leaked out in the public domain, and that's on top of the fact that that idiot Ben Rhodes, whose brother, I don't know if he's still at CBS News, president of CBS News, but you know, he was actually caught several times saying how easy it was to manage the idiots in the mainstream media. I mean, it's like, he's a guy who couldn't get, remember, he's a guy who I believe, according to WikiLeaks Podesta dump, he was a guy who was denied a security clearance in the transition period after Obama won, before he was
Who was
inaugurated.
that?
Ben Rhodes.
Ben Rhodes.
And
Is he a Rhodes scholar? Or
no, he was not a Rhodes
related
scholar.
to
He was
the
a
Rhodes people?
No, he was a pizza delivery guy. I mean,
Randy Rhodes?
No, I don't think so.
Sorry, Charles, real quick. Diggs Well, happy birthday. Tomorrow is Diggs' 68th birthday.
What?
68th, according to the...
Can't be.
I don't know. That maybe the number is very small on screen. Sorry, Diggs, if I got that
I don't
wrong.
think that's the right number.
That's what it says.
Really?
I don't know. I'm just, crowdsourcing the birthday here.
All right, well, happy birthday. Do more digging. So I have been, to date, not really focused on Julian Assange much, but this next story here really gets my blood boiling. This is a story, and I'm amazed it only has 2 shares.
That can't be right.
But this is a guy, Chris Hedges has the original piece. Now, Chris Hedges is, I think, a pretty famous former New York Times writer who is, I think he had a show on RT, may still have a show on RT, and he was over in England for this meeting. And if you scroll down the page a little bit, he alleges that the judge in this case against who's trying to figure out what to do next with Assange is diabolically conflicted. So
Where is that part?
Keep going down the page. They tried to say you're conflicted. Keep going. Here, the judge Emma Arbuthnot cut him off, saying this is not the time to go into this. Okay, and you go down. She's married to James, however you pronounce this, Arbuthnot, is in the House of Lords, Minister of State at the Ministry of Defense for 9 years, Chairman of the Defense Select Committee. He's the director of this thing, SC Strategy, established by John Scarlett, the former head of the British Foreign Intelligence Service, MI6. This is her husband.
Wow. So it's one of these private intelligence firms.
Yeah, and this guy Scarlett has got some real questions around him, according to some of my UK people I respect. And he's also on the board of an arms manufacturer.
Thales. Well, they are an arms manufacturer, but they also own this really fancy lens company I used to own lenses from. Thales is an impressive company. I've been to one of their factories.
Right. Well, look, but WikiLeaks was investigating massive bribes to heads of state in exchange for arms contracts. And this judge is saying she can preside in this case?
That's crazy.
This is ridiculous. I mean, what is wrong with you people in England? How can you put up with this crap? I mean, maybe this is why, the reasons that some of our ancestors, people who were tied to, revolted in 1776. And, this kind of behavior just apparently got worse and worse and worse in the UK. This is outrageous, and Donald Trump and his people must make it a real issue.
Yeah.
This is outrageous behavior.
It is.
And clearly, Assange, in my view, is being railroaded here because the people he's fighting fear what is going to happen to them once the wider world understands just how correct Assange and WikiLeaks has been.
Right.
And this article goes on to point out that the notion that the U.S. would have jurisdiction to go against Assange and WikiLeaks is a real stretch. I mean, this is a very dangerous precedent being set here. And I'm amazed. Well, I suppose I shouldn't say I'm not amazed that Fake Yapper and his colleagues at CNN and elsewhere don't have a lot more to say about this. I mean, we talk about the balance between the public's right to know and powerful politicians and governments being able to squash people like a bug in the day where if you get kicked out of, you have a bank account and your bank decides in this new world, well, we don't like your views, so now you can't do any banking and you can't do any securities, and by the way, it's going to be tough for you to handle your mortgage if you have one, and your bills and all that kind of stuff, and we're not going to let you use social media, and we're going to do, I mean, the abuses that governments can perpetrate against people they don't like, I think this is a case in point. And I really, when you weigh up what WikiLeaks did vis-a-vis the Podesta dump, you look at the Mueller report and you try to find any part of it where it says in this Mueller report, we established that there was a hack. I mean, where is
the hack was Robert Mueller himself.
Yeah, other than him. I mean, I didn't see I read that report carefully. I saw nothing in there that said conclusively, here is the ironclad evidence trail that showed this person hacked on this day and sucked all this information out. And where was the examination of whether it could have been a leak, not a hack? Where was that?
Evidence. You're making Robert Mueller's head hurt.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's lucky he still has one at this point. But I mean, what I don't understand here is that Donald Trump, I think, rode a populist wave into election, and he's now gearing up for re-election. And I don't think it's right what's happening to Julian Assange at this stage. I mean, it probably wasn't right years ago. But I'm amazed that across the political spectrum, we don't have more people pounding on this.
Well, if Donald Trump or anybody who speaks to him is watching, they need to let him know that unless the president intervenes in some positive way with what's happening with Julian Assange, I think he's going to lose a lot of support.
I think that's right.
This is great, and
Yeah.
I do like Kip Simpson.
Yeah, well, this is all about the story. I don't know if you can get back to it. That Hill piece.
You had two links there.
Yeah. So apparently, this just happened. This FBI, the FBI did a Manafort style, Roger Stone style
But
raid.
finally, there's somebody who deserves it.
Yeah, and this is somebody who's in charge of, is a councilman in Washington D.C. and also in charge of this. What do they call it down there? They don't call it the subway. They call it the metro.
Metro, yeah.
So they raided his house.
The metro is notoriously bad in Washington D.C.
I've been on it once.
I think it's, you never know. It costs a different amount to go here and there and how to work that machine. And I don't know. I'm not that impressed with the D.C. Metro.
I would delete the word metro.
Yeah.
I'm not
that impressed with D.C.
But it encompasses the metro. But here are people from the FBI Washington field office going out against this fellow Jack Evans, and the Simpson video, which I have not had a chance to watch, and that was sent to us by our good friends over in the UK, who do such a good job at their site.
I do watch Kip Simpson.
Yeah. And so the idea is that Jack Evans is not just a DC councilman, he's also very much tied into the Clintons. So that the FBI would be going after him in the way that they went after him, and he's decided that he would resign, I think, from being chairman of the Metro, suggests to me that maybe things are actually getting hot, finally.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to suggest that.
Yeah.
So that's good. Hopefully people will be going to jail, Charles.
Yeah. So now this is real. We're going to have a special slot on this. I spoke to Joe Hoff this morning, and hey, Joe, thanks a lot for all your great work. There are a series of stories, not about popcorn, but about... this is a story that says one of the reasons that the deep state targeted Flynn is that Flynn apparently had, early on after the election or around the election into his early few months there as National Security Advisor, he had punched into the whole Gulen situation, which is Mr. Gulen, I think, is an exile from Turkey who operates a bunch of schools.
Pennsylvania, right?
Around in Pennsylvania and elsewhere, a whole bunch of charter schools. And I was explaining to Joe that the Clintons' involvement with schools is a trademark technique. Laureate education at the university level, and then he's on the board of the Varkey Foundation. GEMS is the company that Mr. Varkey, or the Varkey family, creates. That's for-profit secondary schools around the world. If you're trying to move suspicious characters across borders, what better way is having these schools where you say, you know, oh yeah, this person over here is a student. Yeah, that's what the person is.
Student visas.
Unusual interests in archery and knives and explosives and things, poisons and whatever. But that's a student. You know, so you're moving these young people across borders. What better cover than a school? And then if you're trying to wash money, launder money around the world, you can just make up the results. You want to get this dirty money from this country into another place? Well, you have this person make a contribution to the school or whatever.
Thomas Tyson tells us that it's the largest charter school network in the U.S.
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. And it's definitely involved with the Clinton Foundation, and we're not precisely sure exactly whether it's simply donors, whether there are other arrangements. And so one of the theories in this Joe Hoff piece, which he's had a lot, I won't steal his thunder because there's more coming on it, but he's had experts work with him, and they believe that there's a whole bunch of monkey business going on with the information, the files that are out there in the public domain, faked pictures, faked records, faked emails. And in addition, there's a fellow we're going to talk about in a second who was one of the, I would argue, the fixers of the Clinton Foundation, a young person who gets in there and, you know, all the opportunities for graft come into
like the London School of Economics
guy. Exactly. You got a graft evaluation department. Now, is this deal dirty enough for us? You know, is it big enough for us? So you got to have people evaluate the opportunity to scam the world. And I believe this fellow we'll get into his name in a second, is one of the people who was very centrally involved. You can see it. I'll show you how to see it in a second. But he's now missing this guy.
Oh boy, they always
serious
have these
Amitabh
guys go missing. Maybe he's hanging out with Eric Braverman.
Yeah, well, and we'll see whether he truly is missing, but I did go ahead and try to find him on the Clinton Foundation website, and he is scrubbed from the main portion of the Clinton Foundation website. And Joe's experts basically have confirmed to him that this fellow Desai, Amitabh Desai, was apparently using Joe Cashin, who was a former
Joe Cashin.
What a great name. It was a real name of the guy.
Sure.
He was an early employee of the Clinton Foundation when it was operating up in Harlem, I think by around 2002. And so this Desai character, according to Joe, has been using Joe Cashin's email address to communicate. Now, if you think about that, we're talking about a team that includes Bill Clinton, who was prepared as President of the United States in a deposition to actually, in one of his answers, debate the meaning of the word is. Somebody like that is going to be quite willing to say, I didn't send that email. My name's not on that email. Tina Flournoy's name is on that email, or Oscar Flores' name is on the email. It was addressed to those people. I'm not Oscar Flores. I'm not Tina Flournoy. or some other alias. And he's got you see in his daughter, Diane Reynolds.
That's
Is
Chelsea,
one,
right?
Right, one of her aliases, and Uma has aliases, and Hillary has aliases, and I think Chelsea has more than one alias. So this, I think, is quite an interesting thing that Joe has picked up on. And if we go back down it a little bit here, to up above, right there, says, would the State Department have any concerns about CGI inviting Victor Vekselberg, president of Renova Group, to attend CGI annual meeting in New York City? This is on June 4th, 2012. But he came, Vekselberg did come in October 2012. Now, this is a really critical period in here, right? Uma Abedin becomes a special government employee, which we'll show you in a second means she's exempt from certain potential criminal activity because she's deemed to be a special government employee, and we'll see whether that was an appropriate designation. But this is also when Mohamed Morsi is beginning to act up and create trouble. So towards the end of June 2012, Uma starts simultaneously working for the Clinton Foundation, for Doug Band's firm, Teneo, for the State Department, and for the Clintons personally. And she continues in that role. This is something that Chuck Grassley's been trying to understand for years.
You left out Saudi intel.
Yeah, for years in the Muslim Brotherhood.
Exactly.
But this
busy lady.
Vekselberg, it says his company is Renova Group, but in addition to that, Vekselberg was centrally involved with the Skolkovo, new Silicon Valley effort in Russia. And the potential, the FBI, members of the FBI had grave concerns about the wisdom of letting American high-tech companies go over to Russia and think about collaborating, working with investors, Russians, on sensitive projects. And did the FBI stop it? No, they said Clintons want to do it, and we don't want to look too carefully at what the Clintons do. That's why we'll let the Clintons have, there's no inspector general in the State Department. There's no secure servers for all the high-level traffic. People can use corrupted devices if they want. They can use the toilet bowl server system. There's nothing, nothing to worry about here.
Kevin tells us that Huma now works for Hillary's PAC, Onward Together. Why does she need a PAC? Is she planning to run for something?
I don't know that where she's going to end up going, you can pack too much into your cell, in my view. What is the purpose of a PAC if you're not running for president? You can have a PAC that's just a political action, you're going for one cause or another cause. I mean, I agree with you. She should be barred from having she should be barred from participating in life outside of the prison. They shouldn't even allow her to own a pack animal at this point. So this is a very, this story here by Thomas Lifson, this one. Thomas is the person, I think, who conceived of and runs the American Thinker, and I think he's absolutely right. I don't know, Jason, if you had a chance to watch the rally. I watched some of it, yeah. I mean, I watched the whole thing, and it was on fire. He was definitely on fire, and it's quite clear that he's not, that a central piece of the program, and who knows how many more rallies he's going to have between now and 2020, is to focus on the double standard here, and the idea, and to get to the bottom of how did this investigation actually start. To do that, you have to understand who was pulling the strings behind the investigation. Was that just, Mueller and Rosenstein and Sessions said, yeah, why don't we go ahead and do this? Or did the origins of this thing start well before then, and was Barack Obama centrally involved? Was Loretta Lynch? Was Eric Holder? And does it go further back into the Clintons and maybe the Bushes, et cetera, that we had a good thing going from September 11th, 2001 forward? We suddenly have this argument, well, rights, Bill of Rights, fuck that. If you have something to, if you don't have something to hide, you shouldn't worry about intrusive interference into your daily life. Became the way a lot of people were thinking after the dread events of September 11th, 2001. And as I said, along the way, the tools that malevolent people masquerading as government officials who are doing the public good could use against the American population and other populations around the world. Those tools got stronger and stronger and stronger. So Trump, I think, and his people are absolutely right. And they won't like it in the beginning, and they especially won't like it in November 2020 when so far any of the announced candidates, Democratic candidates, is going to get pounded hard in the general election, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
But when they think about what Trump is really doing here, changing the balance between the tech titans and the corrupt people and we the public, they're going to, in the end, I think, revere Trump. It's going to hurt them like hell. But now on this one, this George Conway person, there's a meeting that you've been to and I've been to from time to time where I met Kellyanne Conway when she was giving a speech once. And she's very smart. And this guy Conway, in his business life, I think he was a partner at Wachtell Lipton, which is a very tough, good law firm. But I don't understand how this couple remains married, Kellyanne Conway and her husband, George Conway, because, I think it's on the one hand, we should listen up to what this author has said. She's accusing not only Trump, there are 5 people she's accusing of horrible behavior. There's a gossip columnist who's got a book out on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, where she's alleging that a bunch of people, Les Munvies and others, attacked her, and she's alleging that she was inside Bergdorf Goodman, according to the excerpt I read, in the 1990s, 1996 or thereabouts. And she saw Donald Trump there, who was married at the time, and he was buying her side of the story, E. Jean Carroll. Her side of the story is that Donald was buying something for a girl, and she then agreed to go into the changing room with Trump to try to figure out what Trump should buy this girl, not his wife, when supposedly Trump then attacked her. And to me, I'm not buying.
So if you voluntarily enter a changing room and become naked with another person, at what point is there any responsibility for don't do that?
Yeah, I'm not buying the story at all. It'd be one thing if there were no profit motive whatsoever, but you've got a book coming out Tuesday, right, and it's not even the lead thing in the book, and I just am simply not buying it. But equally, George Conway's buying it. He's saying it's more serious than Juanita Broaddrick. How does he think
it's more credible than Juanita Broaddrick?
Well, I do know, I'm not name dropping, but I do know Juanita Broaddrick, and I sent that to her, and I corresponded with her this morning by email. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
I mean, outrageous.
I don't know that there is a single individual who has been more tormented by the mainstream press than Juanita Broaddrick.
Yeah, well, I don't know how George Conway and Kellyanne Conway smoke a peace pipe, figuratively, at the end of it. Yeah, because there's this George, and if you think about it, it's really odd. Traditionally, you'll see it's the men who lean towards endorsing Trump, right, and on the Republican side.
There are a lot of women who are very pro-Trump.
Right, I'm just saying, but it's more common to see women, viscerally against Trump.
True.
Right, and here you have in this marriage, you have Kellyanne Conway supporting the president, I think adroitly and well, and this guy Conway is just shooting his mouth. I know, it's
at
like
dinner. It's like,
yeah. Why don't we have the Clintons over? So, shameless self-promotion here. There's this group in Tehran, actually, or around the world, but it's headquartered in Tehran, called Press TV, and it is, I believe, privately owned. It's not owned by the government, but and I have been doing these debate shows with Press TV, and I'm not asking you to watch mine, but it's interesting how they put these things together, and they've been at it for a while, and it is apparently the main English language source of news inside Iran.
How many people in Iran speak English?
Many, many people.
Oh, what's the main language of Iran? Farsi?
Farsi, yeah. Anyway, so that's just a little shameless self-promotion. But it's interesting. They
had you go to Brooklyn to shoot it.
Astoria.
Oh,
I've been to Astoria.
Well, it's just a photo, of course, behind you.
Right. Yeah. It's quite interesting how they do it, and they put these shows together. And I'm typically whatever the Iranians say, I'm saying the opposite. Typically,
This guy in D.C. looks delighted to be there. Who is that guy?
I don't know. There are a lot of reflexive anti-American and European pro-Iran government types, and I'm not one of them.
What do you think about the president's decision to not retaliate violently for shooting down a drone?
I think that what I recommend in this set of interviews is that there really needs to be back-channel discussions. It's not like Iran is in a place where tomorrow is going to be a better day if they keep this up. I mean, this has been 40 years of hell for most Iranian people. Many talented Iranians left the country long ago, some with money, some without money, and have built vast fortunes. You change that government around, you turn it into a place that is welcomes, that is not radical terrorist operation, and you would see a flood of capital come back into a very large population. From memory, it's over 70 million.
Wow. But most of the Iranian people who are in the United States, they refer to themselves as Persian, almost like they're not acknowledging Iran.
Right. But people who have a connection to the modern Iran who are not living there, it would seem to me this should be a relatively straightforward adjustment to make. But the Iranians the current regime seems dead set against making the kind of progress that is possible. So as a guess, what would happen is that there are back-channel talks going on, and Trump decided to give these talks a little bit more time to proceed.
Well, I think it was a good thing that he didn't bomb them over a drone strike, but also there were some questions as to what the actual circumstances were. So I like it that he's exercising, he's really being the opposite of what the insane people predicted he might be, that he would get us into a war or nuke the world or whatever. This was really the opposite of what we would expect a mainstream president to do.
Yeah. Well, so I'll go through this quickly just so that this is a little bit of fun. I will reveal that I am exploring the idea of perhaps getting a place in Miami Beach.
Whoa.
And, so I saw this story here, this third.
You could hang out with Roger Stone.
No. But, oh, wow. Well, anyway, this is a story. Apparently there's gigantic amounts of a certain type of seaweed rolling up on the Miami Beach.
Oh, it's very good for you, Charles. There's a lot of chlorella in there.
It's called Sargasso or something like that. So.
Huh.
But and so this story
sounds Italian.
I mean, if you look at this, it doesn't look too good. But what I found fascinating is they talk about, it's a mess and what are we going to do? It's driving property values down to Miami Beach, and they talk about 17 miles of Miami Beach, and then they say that the cost of daily removal of it, which they don't do, is $41 million a year. And I'm thinking to myself, can't make that work. I mean, of course you should get. The value of 17 miles of beachfront property
is not worth $41 million to clean it.
I've got to believe you could just pass around the hat, and the property owners would say, all right, sure.
Well, it's also interesting that the value of not doing it, it's free. Free to not do it.
But the good news for me is that the cost of this stuff is going down, which and eventually they'll get a solution, I would guess.
What's causing it?
A long, complicated article about movement, and you got fresh water with fertilizer remnants coming down the rivers and going into the Gulf.
More Monsanto destruction.
Probably,
no
yes.
Why does the Green New Deal not address anything like that? I can't believe I forgot to tell you this, Charles. Bill Gates has invented a machine that sucks carbon dioxide out of the air.
Good.
Has he heard of the tree? Trees do that also. They produce oxygen.
Yeah, I'm sure the Gates gadget is, is not something he's going to sell at a big fat profit. But
it was just so stupid.
And then I looked at this. Yahoo. I used to like Yahoo years and years ago.
When it was just a search engine.
But now that's appropriately named.
Right.
This is a story by whoever Hope Yen and Calvin Woodward are. They can tell you one thing about each of them. These people are economically illiterate. They're trying to say that the growth in the economy is just continuing a trend started by Obama. I mean, and it's just, these people have not looked at a single economic fact. I mean, you have to look, and I spent a lot of time on this, you can look at government data created when Barack Obama was president. Look at a long time series back to 1982, if you want, which is pretty much the low point of the long boom. And look at the change in trajectory, look at the change in growth rates, and look at what happened from 2007 to 2009. The economy fell off a cliff. It has not recovered, even under Trump, the same rate of growth in private sector incomes, proprietors' incomes. It just hasn't recovered from a long period where bureaucrats of both parties decided to overregulate the United States economy in simple terms and to spend way too much money in an aggregate sense on government, and also to lock in these structural budget deficits, which are posing a mortal danger to the United States economy. Had we stayed on the track that Barack Obama had us on, the stock market certainly would not today be where it is, and the level of growth in the economy would be nowhere near what it is under Trump. So to say that, yeah, let's give credit to Barack Obama's 8 years of stifling growth and absurd spending on projects like the stimulus and other things is really pitiful.
Well, and I would ask, who is the sweatiest, most nervous guy of 2008? Hank Paulson.
Yeah, it kind of looks like Clapper.
I mean, this doesn't do it justice, but I remember I was looking into the whole subprime mortgage thing, and there are so many videos of this guy looking like he's about to have a heart attack.
Yeah, well, the economy nearly crashed, actually, under his watch.
Exactly.
Nice job.
Nicely done. He's probably somewhere with millions right now.
Hundreds of millions.
Exactly.
Now, this, though, I don't know if you could pull this one up, and I don't know, did you hear about what Trump did? He, on Friday, or somebody purporting to be
Nancy
Trump.
Pelosi or what?
No, if you go down this a little bit, it should be possible to show, I don't know if you'll be able to show the video.
Internet explodes.
This, can you hear it? Or?
Oh, you want to hear it?
Yeah. I don't want to hear it, but you. But that music in the background is Norwegian.
Really?
They talk about it in the article, but look at the end of this. It's pretty funny. Trump would be pretty old in 20.
He's not going to live, but...
Yeah, but look at this. Look at the ending is the hilarious part, and his face.
This is the same song that it played when Mickey Mouse was...
Forever. Trump forever.
But that was the same song, I think, from Fantasia, where Mickey Mouse was doing some magical conjuring of mops or whatever.
Is that? I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure people in the comments are going to know what song that was. But, I mean, again, another reference to Norway, Charles.
Right.
That's pretty awesome.
You know, there are countries that have contributed a lot. We're going to talk about Norway today. There are countries that have contributed a lot of money. Taxpayers in certain countries have contributed a lot of money to these flim-flam scandals that involve the Clintons and others. So if we go here, I want to just take a second. Remember, I promised to talk about people who were involved with the scam. Now, I had only recently remembered this link here. This is a specific Podesta email, okay, that's touting on August 20th, 2013. Here's somebody, Dennis Cheng, chief fundraiser.
And the guy who likes the London School of Economics.
Right, and talking, now this does say attachments. I hadn't noticed. Can we hit that attachments?
Yeah.
What does that say? Oh, wow.
A lot of JPEG images.
So we don't need to do those, just images.
Well, it could be interesting stuff.
All right, well, let's see what they are.
Well, this one's a line.
That's interesting.
Not that interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
all right. So we'll go back. Is it?
Cordially invited.
So, we want to just stop right there. The changing of the name of the Clinton Foundation to the Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton Foundation is an illegal act. I mean, this is a public charity that is supposed to be broadly representative of the public at large. It's not supposed to be controlled by one family. And the purposes of this foundation were not adjusted by an amendment to its Articles of Incorporation. This sure looks to me like a concerted effort begun before Hillary leaves Secretary of State. Remember, Cheng is moved out of Secretary of State to 77 Water Street in July of 2011 while she's still Secretary of State. It sure looks to me like they're trying to harness, to position Hillary Clinton for president using the Clinton Foundation as a base of operations, which is, I think, exactly what they did. And this is forbidden stuff. I mean, if you had an actual real IRS department checking into this kind of stuff and a real Justice Department under Obama that wasn't corrupt as hell, you wouldn't let this thing slide. You wouldn't let them change the name. If we go down, it says here, we'd love for you to attend as our guest in a private dinner for our higher dollar donors.
Spirit cooking.
I mean,
We'll be serving menstrual blood.
oh, Jesus.
That's what they were using in that spirit cooking.
Ugh.
Painting the walls with it.
Ugh.
They had pictures of it in this WikiLeaks Podesta dump.
Is that right? Wow.
Yes. Lady Gaga and that weirdo artist, what's her name? Who's like 90 but looks like she's 30.
Nice crowd. Anyway, and this was a party at the Embassy of Italy. Remember we have this issue recently with the Italian secret person?
Yes.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. So that's in
This is in 2013. August 20th, 2013. This, remember, is just around the time that the article comes out in the New York Times, unease at the Clinton Foundation over...
And Kevin is telling us that Dennis Chang now also works for the PAC, Onward Together.
Wouldn't surprise me.
That PAC is just like they're deflecting all their illegal people over there.
So if we go back into the slide, we've shown people this in the past. This clip, if you hit the second link, this is a searchable link. You got to endure. See, there's here. Wait, this is a searchable link of all. You can put in any commitment to action, any name you want. I put NORAD there, which is Norway, and you come back with 5 commitments. Oh, wait, stop for a second. They're organizing a grassroots business fund. How does that sound? It doesn't sound very charitable to me, right? The
What's to help the
grassroots
starving children of Norway.
Here, well, let's hit this one. The Grassroots Business Fund. It's a first for me.
I don't know. Is
If you
it
hit the read one.
doing
Yeah.
anything? There we go.
20 million people living at the base of the economic pyramid by supporting approximately 60 high-impact businesses, for-profit small and businesses in Africa. How is this? They're going to deploy 60 million in capital. This is absurd. How do you argue that this is a charity? How do you argue that this has anything to do with the Clinton Foundation's mandate? This is just at random the first one that we pick. There are something like, I think, 3,000 commitments for action that are documented. The FBI has more than 3,000 agents. If they can't do it themselves, they can get contractors. You need to go through every freaking one of these to figure out. Maybe you start in the biggest size first down to the smallest, but every freaking one of these to see who was involved, did they really happen, did they take a tax deduction, how charitable was this, and who let this slide? Did they just go in the tax exempt department under Lois Lerner and her successor? Was it just like, we'll pretend we'll go to the office, we'll fly around the world, nobody's going to check it. If it comes in and it says D on it, okay, just let it rip. If it's anything else, put them, in prison right away. I mean, this to me is just, on a surface level, it's reprehensible.
Indeed.
So if we go into it, so there's really, in my mind, there's several steps to the process. So they had to have I think history will show that they had to have trusted people, typically younger people plucked from obscurity, who go into these meetings where suddenly you're meeting with the former president of the United States, you're traveling around the world playing cards with, and who knows what else with Bill Clinton, and you get assigned, you're at the end of the fire hose of incoming attempts to conduct crooked schemes, and you've got to decide which are the most fun crooked schemes that you can get away with, and try to get them done. That's your job, right? So stuff will come in. It's not going to be today, Jason. I just want to, I want to bribe this official over here. I got several projects today. We can bribe the leader of Congo, or we can get our friend out of jail in Jamaica, or we can set up this hospital project that will say cost $1 billion, but it really only costs 10 million, and we'll steal 900. They're going to have a whole slew of these things that somebody has to evaluate.
Did they bribe the Congo guy?
I'm just making this stuff up.
It was just that thing where there's Ebola coming from Congo, and the Clintons were somehow involved in an Ebola vaccine. We did a show on David Hawkins' thing about the Ebola vaccine.
Yeah, that's another big, any kind of disaster or potential disaster you hear about, so something's going to happen. The Earth is going to go through the same portion of the universe. It's going to rotate around where, that thing happened in Siberia in 1919 or whatever it is. We're coming right back to the same place. We better move the Earth slightly over here. That's going to cost $60 trillion. We don't do it, we're going to move the Earth slightly, and then we're going to move it back, And then Elizabeth Warren will say, wow, that sounds like a sustainable project to me. And Cory Booker will go batshit crazier. He'll be in support of it, and then all the campuses will be moving the Earth. We'll do it bipartisan. We'll move it to the left, and then we'll move it back to the right. But anyway, they come up with these crazy schemes, and then they have to paper them over. And this is the reason I think why all of the Clinton Foundation stuff and Secretary of State emails were not on the official server. They need a way to paper this volume of memorandum. They've got to organize it, memorialize it, and they got to make sure, they got to keep track of, this guy over here is going to take a $100 million tax deduction, but we're going to have to give him back 50 million of the 100 million he says he gives us. You keep track of all that. We move it from here to there, by the Caymans, this and that. So in a second step, you need pliable people of negotiable virtue, the Uma Abedins, the Dennis Changs, the Doug Bands, the Amitabh, and Chris Balderson. You need these type of people to get inserted into all this. And they need to know that they'll get well looked after if they play along, but if they cross the Clintons, there's the Vince Foster program. And I think, this is a working theory here, but I think it's going to end up showing to be quite true. And the follow-on steps, the people who play along from this group and others, the donors to the Clinton Foundation gain access to, say, World Bank financing or IFC financing, OPIC guarantees. That means that if they have a $100 million project that they thought they were going to use $100 million of their own money, no, because the Clintons, you put up only 10 and you get some, the World Bank or the IFC, I'm just making up numbers here. You leverage the amount of equity down that you would have to put in, you get concessionary funding, you get Clinton cronies around the world to give you a telecom license or give you an energy deal or a mining deal or whatever. And it's basically a crooked investment bank. It's a scam, a global scam. Now, we talked about Assange, and just with regard to the Podesta emails alone, what I did here is I took each name, and we'll just give one example. Let's start with Uma. This is what happens when you punch Uma Abedin's name in. It should show you at the very top how many, 2,681 results in the Podesta emails alone.
That was for convenience.
Well, my point is that every single one of these emails needs to be investigated. What was Uma actually doing? How could she be taking, at the time that she was, whose payroll was she? And here, by the way, I just noticed back here, the very first email, ha16@hillaryclinton.com. This is in March 18th, 2016. That's new to me.
Yeah, we haven't seen HA before.
Yeah, that's Uma. And then you have, above it, you have uma@hroffice.com.
HRC office.
HRC, and then you have Nick Merrill at hrcoffice.com.
How can they keep track of all these different emails?
Right, and these are the ones we know about.
And who's Marissa Astor?
I don't know. But the point is, this is 2,681 emails, every single one of which needs to be investigated in my mind. Not this, we'll use search terms. Let's say murder. Let's see if that, it's not in any of these emails.
They're not talking about murder?
No, I'm just saying,
weird.
You'll select search terms which will purposely kick.
I don't think criminals send each other emails with the subject murder.
Right, exactly.
And it's like, by the way, I took care of that thing.
Yeah, that's right. Execution accomplished,
Cross it
boss.
off the list.
Sleeping with the fishes. So, anyway, this is just UMA. If we go to the next one, we'll do one more, and then we'll let's look at Cheng and see how many. I think he's got fewer. At the very top of this one.
661.
661. Yeah, it was still a lot.
Roundup? Wait a minute now. He's not talking about Monsanto Roundup.
No, I don't think so. But anyway, here's D. Cheng at Clinton Foundation. This is that dinner that we've already pulled up once. But to me, when you look at this, what is this one here? This is forward, meeting with Dennis Cheng, at the very bottom.
John Podesta. Want to see it?
Yeah, let's see what that says. Any interest?
Fun.
So this certainly sounds like political fundraising.
Yeah.
Right, and if we go up the date here, we go down. Go up to the top. March 2nd, 2015. This is before Hillary has announced. She announces in April of 2015. Keep going up. Let's see when Dennis sent this. Further up. Yeah. From John to Janice. This is before. What is John Podesta sending this email to Dennis Cheng when he's working for the Clinton Foundation? He's not supposed to be involved in political campaigns. Yeah. So anyway, if one were to really sit seriously with these people, not the way it was that they were interviewed by dopey James Comey in 2016, you're sitting with somebody and you start off with Dennis Cheng and say, whatever immunity you thought you had, you don't have, okay? You're not leaving the country. You're not getting, and you need to understand the following laws. You cannot lie to an FBI agent. You have to tell an FBI agent the whole truth, not a portion of the truth, not just the convenient truth. You got to say the whole truth. And Mr. Cheng, do you remember this email, and this email, and this email? And you sweat them out. So if we go back to the slide. Band, we know about Taneo Desai. Now he's missing. Chris Balderston apparently was one of the directors of global partnerships for Hillary Clinton when she was in the State Department. These are 5 names I would start with. I'm sure there are many more, but we start with those, and you say, look, what was really going on in this period when Hillary was a senator, and Bill was president, all the way forward about the Clinton family monetizing the U.S. and other governments via their foundation. How much did they use the foundation to do good works, and how much did they use the foundation to finance political campaigns for themselves, their allies, to go against enemies, and to concoct self-enrichment schemes, all in the guise of charity? Now, if you want the answer to these questions, you've got to engage on the facts. So if we go into the next slide. Now, the Norwegians, we're going to tell a tale here of Norway's involvement with the Clinton Foundation, ostensibly, in theory, to do good works, but it's very dangerous, as we're going to show, to allow large sums of money to stream out of taxpayers' hands in a place like Norway and end in places like, for example, Haiti, where the Norwegians were very generous, actually, in the end, in sending money to Haiti. But not just Haiti, to countries where they don't spend enough money to even have the trappings of government, the real trappings of government. There is not enough, there's no base, there's no, the population is pliant and poor, and there just isn't an infrastructure in many places like Haiti to have even the appearance of peace and good governance. They're just not, you can't have a country prone to problems. You can't take the United States and say, you know what, we trust people in New York City. It's a modern capital of the planet. Why don't we try an experiment? Let's have no police, no fire, no sanitation, nothing, right? We aren't going to collect tax revenues anymore.
Mad Max at McDonald's.
Right, it last a week.
It would last 2 days. When they had Hurricane Sandy, I remember after 3 days, there was no gasoline. People were shooting each other in New Jersey.
Right.
Oh, that's Jersey.
That's right.
It's a different thing.
But when we speak of Norway, the people of Norway have been enormously generous, disproportionately so given the size of the country. They gave a ton of money to this global fund. I think it's $1 billion US they've given to the global fund over its life. This is that thing that Rajat Gupta cooked up with Bill Gates and Jeffrey Sachs and others. If you look here, I think it shows just how much money Norway sent to that thing. It shows by year, I believe. At the bottom of it. Yeah, look at this. It's 2,000. I mean, it's a tremendous amount. 2 billion.
Is this in Norwegian kroner?
Divide by 9.
2 billion.
So it's like almost $1 billion given for a small country of around 5 million people. To give $1 billion for this project, and of course, these globalist schemes. The globalist schemes, they don't go and say, you know what? Let's have the headquarters for this globalist scheme in a country that will really be better off, and it'll be a lot cheaper for us to do it if we do it in a place like Haiti. Let's put the global headquarters in Haiti and see how much that. No, they pick. It's either New York, it's typically Geneva, because I love Geneva, but I mean, that's not a low-cost place to operate. So anyway, they've given a bunch of money to this global fund. If we go back into the slide, Jason, they've given, starting in 2003, there's abundant evidence in the public domain that under Prime Minister Bondevik, they started channeling money via projects that they thought were run by the Clinton Foundation in 2003 and 2004. The Clinton Foundation had no international authority to do anything in 2003 and 2004. And of course, the government of Norway is dragging its feet trying to answer the question. Well, there are all these press statements about Clinton saying that Norway's doing, $25 million, $100 million worth of funding over time, starting in 2004. Is Clinton lying? Is Norway lying? Whatever happened to the money? And we don't yet seem to have the kind of interest coming out of the present Norway government to get to the bottom of this. These are, if we just hit this UNICEF one, it's not only that they did it in the Global Fund, it's not only that they did it in the HIV/AIDS stuff. There's 3 different, the first one's fine. I believe they also contributed to the tsunami efforts.
Maybe they contributed to making it.
Yeah. Here's the Clinton Foundation and UNICEF launch the Tsunami Water and Sanitation Fund. Now, I've been able to find no evidence in the public domain of an actual fund being launched. There's mention of money being contributed to the U.S. Foundation in support of UNICEF in 2005. I believe there's mention of money going in there. But if you go down this press release at the bottom, it talks about how Norway supported this, I think. This is actually, it says, sorry.
No Norway there.
Okay, well, maybe it's in another one. But this is one of the early examples of a Clinton Foundation exercise for which there's little concrete evidence that anything actually happened, and there's no...
That's a better title for Hillary Clinton's book. Little concrete evidence that anything actually happened.
Right. But in the case of Haiti, NORAD definitely contributed around $100 million. You hit that NORAD thing there. This one, yeah.
Just dealing with some trolls here. They seem to be continuing to try their now obsolete tactic of attacking the show.
Yeah, so they contributed almost 100 million US to the Haiti effort. Now, bear in mind that the Clinton Bush Haiti Fund in total was less than 100 million. So one wonders, this money that supposedly went from Norway into Haiti, where did it actually go? Who got it? Who was in charge of handling it? Who made sure that it inside Haiti went to where it was supposed to go? So if we now go back into the to the next page. Now I put this up here because it's frankly quite interesting to me anyway. This is a simple comparison. We've got the sources down here. This is a CIA World Factbook information. They do a lengthy section on most countries of the world, whether it's right or not.
Gotta be true. It's coming
whether
from
it's
the
right.
CIA.
Well, the point is whether it's what I find interesting about it is it gives you. Let's assume that there are problems with all the work, but at least you get to see. There's a consistent effort made to compare these countries across metrics that are useful. And I've just taken a lot more metrics than I've picked here. But Norway is 304,000 square kilometers. It's a pretty big country, actually. Haiti is only 27,000. Haiti has twice as many people packed into this small country. Norway has only 5.4 million. In Norway, there are no people without electricity, not a single
Really?
That's what they say. In Haiti, almost 75% of the people don't have electricity. You start there.
But it's a dry heat.
Well, it's kind of, wireless systems.
Yeah, they've got these Dennis O'Brien phones, but no electricity. How do they charge the phones?
It's an electricity-less system. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I would look there and I'd say, now, okay, maybe it's good. It's in a temperate place where it doesn't get that hot. No, it's freaking hot.
Haiti is tropical.
All right. So then Norway, like the US, 82% of the population is in cities. But in Haiti, only 55% is in cities. So, okay, you got 27% more in rural areas in Haiti than in Norway. So you're talking about a place that has, most people don't have electricity, overwhelming majority don't have electricity. You look at, now maybe Norway has too many roads, right?
I was going to say, this is a staggering number right here.
Right. Yeah.
768. But they're all in the north driving to the Walmart factory.
I mean, you look at, it's ridiculous. So just trying to get around Haiti, not so simple. Then paved airports, Haiti has 4. And it doesn't, I doubt that they're spectacular airports. Norway, small Norway for 5.4 million people, has 67.
You don't think the business class lounge in Air Haiti is
I think it's
the envy of all nations?
I hear their curry is fantastic. But then you look, the percentage of the population that has unimproved, unsanitized drinking water, 0 in Norway, 42% in Haiti.
What is it? I mean, how are they improving? It's like, if you
Clean
like water, you're going to love this.
Yeah, no, clean water. I mean, it's really, okay.
Put fluoride in there and stuff.
Whatever, but I mean, treated water, I definitely would be going for the treated water in Haiti and not for.
Yeah.
So 42% of the population, this is including the urban population, right, is untreated water, but 72%, no clean latrines. Okay, these are massive obstacles to trying to get anything accomplished in a country, even a country with only 10.8 million people. You have, nobody really knows if these numbers are accurate, but 150,000 people living with HIV and AIDS. Only 5,000 in Norway. Many more AIDS deaths in Haiti. But interesting, when you look at that statistic, 150,000 have AIDS, but only 5,000 are dying. Now, you can't, what's happened is this medicine, these antiretroviral treatments and other means have made it possible for people with AIDS to live long periods of time. So when you talk, that's good and bad news. It's good news for the person, but it's bad news for a health system if you don't have the money to actually fund the treatment for these people. It means 150,000 people, do the rough math, are going to be treated for 30 years.
Wow.
Right?
What's the cost of that?
Well,
and where do they get the money for that?
Exactly. So another thing that's interesting and different, in Norway, women wait until their first birth, age 28.9. In Haiti, it's 22.8.
That's probably correlated to the number of people going to college and how many women can have careers. I would imagine Haiti is probably pretty traditional in their whole male-female relationships. Like, by traditional, I mean probably not that good for women.
Yeah, antiquated. Yeah. And then the average woman in Norway has 1.85 births. In Haiti, it's more frequent. But now look at this figure of doctors per 100,000 persons.
Whoa.
Okay. Haiti, 23.
Ah.
Norway, 463. Hospital beds, 70. Norway, 380.
You got to move out of Haiti.
So the population, nonetheless, in Haiti is growing faster than in Norway. So think about how many people are dying. I mean, with all these obstacles, think of the misery in Haiti.
Yeah.
And think of the challenge. It's not as simple as getting some volunteer, Dennis Cheng, straight off the airplane from the London School of Economics, as smart as he may be, is not going to be able to, go down with his supercharged laptop and do a helicopter survey of Haiti and come back with the 10 points plan that is going to make 10 billion invested in Haiti work overnight. So did the stimulus for Haiti work? Let's go to the next slide.
I bet $1 the answer is no.
Not so much. So here what I've done, this is I tout this website, I'm dump on the UN and all day long and globalist organizations, but UNCTAD has put together a database, may or may not be accurate, for every country in the world, in the case of economic spending going back to 1970, translated to dollars, that allows you to do long time series analyses of comparing countries. So here what I've done is I've said, all right, Norway, I think, spends way too much on government, but it has a big market for capital projects inside the country. How do I get to that place? Household consumption per capita is the figure here. 33,000, 36,000, 40,000. That's what people are spending in Norway on basic living, housing, healthcare, whatever. That's what the average person spends in Norway and spent from 2009 to 2017. They spend on government roughly 50% of that. 17,000 a person, 18 rising to 20,000. Now, these are moving around. These are dollar figures. Norway has its own currency, the krona. So that's why you get some of these erratic movements. But you see, they spend a lot on government. Their people spend a lot on consumption. And they, in addition, spend a lot on capital projects. Now, some might argue that the capital projects would be working, new housing, new office buildings, new industrial plants, things like that. But there's a market, evidently, for a large amount of spending inside Norway on these projects. Now, we contrast that with Haiti, okay? The big stimulus for Haiti came in 2010 and 11. They're still spending in Haiti less than $1,000 a person. Okay, that's not a lot of money. On government...
Per year?
Per year. On
Wow.
government, they're spending $1.50 a month per person.
Wow. Talk about
Laissez-faire.
laissez-faire.
Does that sound like a place you might want to go?
That's
to run a
economical government.
Well, do you think you might want to go down to a country like this if you felt you could control it? Where there's... Huh?
$1.50.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like you could buy and sell Haiti with some pocket change.
Exactly. It could be. So you wait for the disaster to come along and then you save them. You scare up $10 billion and you divert as much of that money as you can to your coffers around the world. So, and clearly, if you're spending per person, $200, you have all these campaigns on television for some of the light on this number of for just $20 a month. You can do this. This is less than $20 a month in Haiti per person on capital projects, meaning
They better
plants.
get Sally Struthers over there.
So, there's a law, 18 U.S.C. 219, conflict of interest statute. Criminal offense for a public official say, people working in the State Department from 2009 to 2016 or elsewhere to be or act as an agent of a foreign principal, that could be government or whatever. This law does not apply to special government employees. How many people in the Obama administration, the State Department, under Hillary and under Kerry, were deemed to be special government employees? Who made that decision? Why did they make that decision? Did Hillary Clinton make that decision? And I think all of this needs to be very carefully studied in the light of the fact that while Hillary was Secretary of State, there was no Inspector General, in light of the fact that there were all these global partnerships, that the Clinton Foundation was running riot around the world, and that they then get this $10 billion bonus, $10 to $14 billion bonus coming out of the Haiti earthquake, which again, I don't think Haiti's, the numbers don't suggest that Haiti's much better off for a lot of money having flowed towards Haiti starting in 2010.
Yeah.
So with that background, go to the next page. There's actually a little bit of good news here. So if we hit this link, you get to the Department of Justice announcement that came out on Thursday. So there are two gentlemen, Mr. Richard Bonsi, I guess, and Joseph Baptiste. Now, Joseph Baptiste is somebody we talked about back in November. And these are people, if you scroll down the page, who are run afoul of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and something called the Travel Act, which we're going to introduce you to. But there was an $84 million scheme that Bonsi and Baptiste were involved with, and they took a meeting in Massachusetts, I think, with people they thought were interested in getting this project and were willing to bribe the leader of Haiti. And they didn't realize that these were actually good people in the FBI who were impersonating crooks. And so they nailed these guys.
That's like ab scam.
Well, yeah, and they nailed these people finally. And you'll see that Baptiste would funnel the bribes to Haitian officials through a nonprofit entity that Baptiste controlled, which was based in Maryland.
Interesting.
Maryland. So in looking through the Clinton-Bush Haiti minutia, we have talked about and wondered why it was that the main Clinton Foundation would wire money or send money to the Clinton-Bush Haiti Fund located at a post office box in Maryland.
That's
there are also connections, I believe, between Baptiste and the Clinton-Bush Haiti Fund and others. This says to me, though, the Department of Justice is, I mean, these people have now been accepted guilty pleas. They will be sentenced in September. I think it is clear here that the Justice Department is, in fact, has been focusing on this corrupt situation in Haiti. Interestingly, Baptiste is linked to Tony Rodham.
Oh, who's dead now?
Who's still dead.
That is interesting.
Yeah, and in that Baptiste apparently was on the VCF mining board, the crooked entity with
the fake
Tony Rodham.
gold mine.
Right.
Jimmy Moriarty said there was no gold there.
That would stand to reason.
Why do you say that?
That's a perfect scam, right? I mean, you have this thing. Well, no, believe there's gold in Haiti. That's why Columbus was going to Haiti to find the gold.
He says no way, no gold there. That it was a total. I was thinking before when you were talking about flim-flams, you should write a separate book about the anatomy of a swindle, schemes, flim-flams, and other.
Right. Well, no, I'm joking with my agent about it. That it's certainly a chapter is going to have to ask the president's permission. The art of the steal. We've done one show about it. So this is, to me, you're not going to go hell-bent to leather against this $84 million scam without noticing how crooked the Clinton Foundation was, how crooked the $10 billion supposed earthquake recovery project was. And as a guess, the FBI is now has been deeply stuck in here, and we're starting to see people fall. As this Baptiste and Bonsi start to contemplate what life is going to be like in an American prison for each of them, they're going to rat out other people as a guest, and we're going to find more and more confirmation of the edges of the scam. Remember that Cheryl Mills was centrally involved in the Haiti recovery efforts, that she has a company called Black Ivy that's sort of like the Teneo. It's meant to concoct investment projects. She was a special government employee. And so, and she's very much a protector or a professed protector of the Clintons since time immemorial. She would know a lot of the dirt. And at a certain point, against a tough prosecutor who's built a reasonable case, anybody's going to fold.
This is maybe non sequitur, but just the facts, ma'am, wants to know what happened to the guys from Massachusetts who were investigating the Clinton Foundation with tax fraud. I think we probably will hear about them when they're next able to surface and share information.
Right. Let's just say they're, as hard as they were working before, they're working harder. That's all I'll say on that.
It's like a one-legged guy at an ass-kicking contest
Exactly.
or whatever they call that.
So if we go to the next slide, this is an interesting one. I hadn't heard specifically 18 U.S.C. 1952. They call it the Travel Act. This is again what they have gotten this person. But when you travel or use the mail or any facility in interstate or foreign commerce with intent to distribute the proceeds of any unlawful activity. Any unlawful activity. Charity fraud is an unlawful activity. This is what they're getting this fellow on, Baptiste, the Travel Act. And it says here as well, as used in the section unlawful activity, it says if they discuss here, if it also involves a pre-retail medical product. Pre-retail medical product. So in other words, what they're getting at here is one huge racket is people who are in the supply chain for high-priced drugs, let's say, or medical equipment. Right? You're in the supply chain, so you're getting the stuff that has retail value, a very high retail value, but you're buying it for less than wholesale cost, let's say. You don't control that warehouse that has this medicine ready to go into the retail market. You've got a bunch of crooks in there taking that stuff and selling it on the black market. You can make a tremendous amount of dirty money that way, and you can need a way to launder it. Very aggressive penalties for people who engage in traveling, racketeering, unlawful activities involving pre-retail medical product, as defined in Section 670. What is Section 670, you ask? Let's go to the next page.
But this is anybody traveling to further a scheme, even if they're traveling in RV that's wrapped with a picture of a certain congresswoman from Georgia.
Right.
That's interesting.
Right. So basically, I bring this up here, and I'm not a lawyer, to say that if the FBI is casting around for fertile ground to attack anybody for fraud, this, to me, the distribution of these HIV/AIDS drugs by a foundation who had its authority to operate yanked away in Massachusetts on March 31st, 2008, with effect from December 31st, 2007. If we've got a team in Massachusetts looking at Baptiste for offenses against the Travel Act, that same team would be pretty well positioned to go into the record and say, hey, this Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS thing, where's the evidence that it actually got federal tax exemption from anybody? Where are the reports that they were supposed to file when they liquidated the thing on December 31st, 2005? You know, and for how long has this been going on? Why is Ira Magaziner still doing business in Massachusetts, not answering for the crimes of distributing pre-retail medical products that who knows where they went and may have been adulterated?
Well, he's got that Weber grill there. He can't just leave.
Yeah. So this is just a new section of things that we're looking at here. I think we're...
Oh, that's it?
That's it.
Wow, that's sort of a short one for today, but it's packed with information, Charles.
Well, we did also have, though, I left time for the this just in that you wanted to talk about.
Oh, yes, right. And that was one that I had seen, but then you brought to my attention yet again. Wow, a lot of emails have come in since you sent that. Let me just, here it is. Right. Oh, yeah. So this is particularly interesting. You know, Charles, something that's become a real subject of interest for me is this thing called social engineering. And there are some very dishonest people who are on YouTube and existing in social media who try to push false stories. One of those people is Jake Morphonios. He has publicly lied and falsified evidence to smear me, to smear Laura Loomer. Laura came on Crowdsource the Truth with Larry Klayman to talk about Laura's incredibly detailed investigation into the various activities of Congressional Representative Ilhan Omar, who I personally believe is a jihadi who supports Sharia law and is intent on building an Islamic caliphate in North America that will include the destruction of the United States government and flying an ISIS flag over the White House. That's stated. So Laura did an investigation where she went to Ilhan Omar's home in Minnesota, the home that she used to register to run in that district. Laura observed no one in the house, no furniture in the house, suggestive that nobody actually lives there. She also went to Representative Omar's Minnesota office and it was padlocked, nobody there. She also found documents that suggested, as this article mentions, that Ilhan Omar had committed immigration fraud by marrying her own brother so that he could stay in the United States of America. Now, if someone is in government and these types of accusations are leveled against them, you would think they would come forward with all of the factual information that disproves them, but that is not what's happening. Representative Omar is repeatedly refusing to answer questions about this. This article says that she did hire a lawyer who straightened out the tax problems that arose from being married to two people, but it's a further demonstration that Omar operates under Sharia law, not the Constitution and not the laws of the United States of America. And the despicable, dishonest, and really horrible thing that Jake Morphonios did was he produced a video after the shooting in New Zealand where he accused Laura Loomer and he very carefully gerrymandered his accusations to avoid accusing Larry, because I think he knows what he was doing was libelous. He accused Laura and I of fomenting hatred and having some sort of participation or contributing to the shooting in New Zealand, which was totally false. Laura's report was very factual, and this is a story that's not going to go away. Ilhan Omar is someone who should not be in Congress. In fact, she should probably be prosecuted for crimes related to tax evasion or whatever it is that this being married to two people did as far as complicating her taxes. And you know, I have asked Jake many times to present this evidence that he claimed disproved allegations leveled by John Cohen. Jake has refused to produce it because it doesn't exist.
Well, and this is an interesting story here because it's in the Minneapolis Star Tribune, which is,
Mainstream?
It's a mainstream paper. Mm-hmm. And it just came out, I guess we're at the 23rd, came out last night at 10:42 p.m., so it's breaking news. We'll see how much coverage this gets on CNN and MSNBC and New York Times and Wall Street Journal. But at the very least, if you take her picture off of this and just say Republican A, had this kind of a checkered track record and no real experience, and somehow ends up in the House of Representatives, and nobody has a right to say anything negative about it.
She married her own brother. I don't know, Charles. We'll see where this story goes, but I want to thank you for joining me once again. I want to thank everybody who's been watching us here. Anything else that we wanted to cover?
Well, I just say this is, we're going into the summer now, and people are with children or children still in school or helping them get repotted into summer jobs and summer activities, and so there's going to be a little bit of, I'd say, interruption in the flow of moving things along. But things have been in the hopper around the world. Many governments, many people have been looking at this Clinton fraud, and it's had many tentacles. And I expect that Donald Trump's administration, as they prepare to run the re-election campaign in earnest, is going to continue to ratchet the heat up. can't promise exactly what's going to happen when, but I think fireworks are coming on July 4th for certain, and fireworks may be coming more frequently than that.
It really feels like a historic landslide is in store for Donald Trump. The Democrats are going to have to do something. I still feel like they're going to pull out Michelle Obama at the last minute because there's no one right now who represents a legitimate competitor to Donald Trump. I just don't.
Well, it's very tough to find anything to watch on Saturdays on television, but I was flipping through the channels and I got to this fish fry in South Carolina, which is this.
That sounds like an exciting show.
No, it's the for the Democratic candidates. It's this whatever the guy's. I don't want to mispronounce his name, but it's a famous South Carolina African American congressman has this fish, Jim Clyburn, I think it is, fish fry, and. I kind of like Jim Clyburn. I think he's got a storied career. I disagree with most everything he has to say about economics, but it's become a tradition that you go to his fish fry in the presidential season and you talk. And I said, oh, that sounds like a nice thing. Then I realized the moderator is, Slim Shady Al Sharpton.
Oh,
is the moderator of this thing, and he subjected everybody who showed up to the fish fry to absurd question after absurd question where people got a chance to pander, which is basically what everyone did here. Look at Beto.
Is that Bernie right here?
I don't know.
Looks like it.
There's de Blasio back there.
Beto
in his shirt that's too small.
Yeah, what's he doing there? Bernie's too big, Beto's too small.
Yeah.
What a wreck. I mean, Donald Trump has a rally and it's like, turn out for like a Rolling Stones concert, and these guys, it's like the PTA meeting.
Right.
I guess that's pretty crowded. Claiborne fish fry. Well, I don't know. Is this Mr. Claiborne?
Clyburn.
Clyburn, sorry. Is he running for president?
No. He's been in Congress for a long time. He's got as I say, quite a career.
Well, Charles, I think people will stay. We didn't really get a chance to address Sidney Powell taking over representation. Obviously, that happened last week or so, and we spoke about it a little bit, but I think there's a hearing coming up this week, and people are very interested to see. There was an article, I think, in The Nation describing the ways that Sidney Powell could reveal even more evidence about the deep state. I think this is exactly what the people trying to frame General Flynn did not want. Legitimate representation. Now, granted, Sidney is starting out a little bit behind the 8 ball. There's all these plea deals and all this stuff that's already happened, but I feel much better that General Flynn now has legitimate representation. People can still go to that Mike Flynn Defense Fund website and support the general, and I hope that people will support this show. I showed at the beginning of the show the ads are not running. They've been determined by YouTube to be not suitable for advertisers. So I don't even really want advertisers. I like this model of micro sponsorship from the viewers. It puts the power back in the hands of the people for them to decide what they want to watch. But Charles, thanks for another great episode. Now you sue me, and that's for each of them. I'll see you next Sunday. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great night.